Ask any business owner you know, freelancers, agency owners, anybody with a client-serving business, and they will all tell you that the hardest part of what they do is not making the thing that they make. It's not making logos, it's not making websites. That's not the hardest part of what we do as creatives. The hardest part is keeping your client happy, especially if you have multiple of them. So in this video, I'm gonna give you the 3 most critical things you can do to keep your clients happy at all times. My name is Sher, and for the last 6 years, I've been helping businesses make websites that help them sell their products and services. I now travel from city to city, living in a different place in an Airbnb, operating my business remotely, and I'm here to share some of the tips that I've learned with you. My first tip for you is to make sure that you and the client are always on the same page about the timeline for the project. Now, this can get kind of complicated, and it's actually where more problems arise from a client project than anywhere else in the business. The reason this is complicated is because you start off with one timeline. You say, you know, the design phase is going to take this long, the development phase is going to take that long, or even simpler, the project is going to take 4 weeks. You start off with that timeline, and then you deliver something to the client, and then they give you revisions, and then you give them back, and there's a revision process that happens, and timelines change. And the longer the project, the more the timeline changes. Now, it's your responsibility to keep the client updated whenever those changes happen. What we do at the Sher agency is every Friday, our creative director sends out an email to every client saying, hey, here's what we have for you this week. Here's an update of what our timeline is. We just gave you X. If you give us Y by Tuesday, we'll get you the next version of this by Z. It's also helpful to have something like that to look back on. If a month down the road, when the project is hitting another delay and the client's like, you know, hey, why is the project so out of control? Why is it lagging like this? You can say, yeah, please reference the email I sent on May 15th, where I said that I needed this by then, and if you didn't get it to me, we were gonna get off schedule. Now, if you've been in this industry for a while, you've probably had some projects that have like dragged on forever and lagged indefinitely. But if you send these emails every Friday or every Tuesday or whatever for you, if you send an email like this once a week, just telling the client what the next step is and what you need from them, your project isn't gonna go on forever. You've got your finger on the pulse of the project, and you are making decisions and forcing things to happen at a certain pace. The only projects I've had that spiral out of control are where I did not have this process in place where we check in every single week. This is a critical thing, and it will change your business. And beyond that, your clients will love you for it. Clients love it when you are proactive and you are the person that's taking charge. And that's actually a theme you're gonna notice throughout my next 2 tips as well. The last thing I wanna say about this is that it kind of requires a lack of fear of confrontation out of you, and that's a really positive thing. Having that weekly update that you send to the clients provides you great context to tell your client, hey, we're not gonna meet our original timeline. You've requested too many revisions. Or if you request another round of revisions, we're not gonna meet our original timeline. Having that dialogue happening regularly reduces the conflict that comes later on when it's a surprise to the client that, you know, we're not gonna hit the June 14th deadline because we did 5 rounds of revisions in the design phase. And you shouldn't be doing 5 rounds of revision on anything, but you know, that's a different video. I understand that there's a little bit of fear that plays into this, right? You don't ever want to be the person giving the client bad news. And I'm going to tell you, you have to overcome that. It is something that you're going to have to do in business, is tell people things that they don't want to hear. But as long as you're doing it in a professional, consistent, and clear manner, they'll respect you for it, and the disagreement will be pretty minor. My second tip is to be proactive even when a client goes silent. If you've been in the industry for a while, we've all had projects where, you know, the client ghosts for like 3 months, and then you never hear anything about it, and then they come out of nowhere, and then they want to start the project up again. That's a nightmare. It's better for everyone if you're just on the ball the whole time. If a client doesn't respond to one of our Friday emails, what we do is the next Friday, we send them an updated timeline video, and it says something to the effect of, hey, it looks like you weren't able to get us this week. No problem, we've pushed this to next week, so please make sure that your revisions are in by Friday. Here's the impact that this has on our overall timeline. Clients love that, because when you're the person that takes charge and are running the show, it makes them feel like they're in good hands and that they're a priority to you. Never let a client ghost you for months. You need to actually follow up with them all the time. I've made this mistake tons of times. I've had clients ghost me for an entire year and then pick up the project. I'm actually doing one of those projects right now from a contract that I signed probably in 2019. It's crazy. And that's not good for anybody. The client's not happy, I'm not happy. The process that we signed that contract with isn't the process that we do now. There's so many problems with letting a project drag on that long. So it's critical that you keep your eye on the ball and you make sure that the client knows that you are on a timeline and they have a responsibility to you to get it done. My third tip is to lead every meeting. You should never let your client be in the driver's seat, especially if they're upset with you. I personally start every meeting with, hey everyone, how's everyone doing? You know, small talk. And then I go, all right, so my plan for this meeting is we're gonna do item 1, item 2, item 3, and then there's gonna be about 15 minutes left at the end of the session. Do you guys have anything that you'd like to fill that time with? You clearly just took initiative, you had a plan for the meeting, because that's what professionals do, and you allowed for them to raise any additional concerns. Most of the time, if you did a good job preparing for the meeting, you already know what it's going to be about, and they're not going to have anything to add to the end. And if they do, you can always just be like, oh, actually, that's a really quick one. I'll just address that now. And then you just get that out of the way and you proceed with your plan. Always get back to your plan because it's critical that you are in control of every client meeting. Now, sometimes client meetings have something awkward in them. And this goes back to that fear of confrontation. For example, if you're developing a website and you're doing your second round of revisions and there was something from the client's first list of revisions that didn't get done properly, you got to call that out at the beginning of the meeting. If there's anything awkward, you always call it out at the meeting. Here's how I do that. All right, guys, it looks like there were a couple of revisions from round one that didn't get done properly. That's my mistake. I take ownership of that. We're gonna make sure that we tighten it up and get that done. Sorry for being sloppy, but won't happen again moving forward. And then you proceed. It takes all of the client's ammo. They have nothing left to sting you with because you've already addressed the elephant in the room, and the rest of the meeting can be productive and no one's gonna get yelled at and there's nothing awkward that's gonna happen. If your client's a total jerk, it might happen anyways, but you don't wanna be working with jerks. You gotta avoid that before you start. Don't accept those projects. So in summary, my 3 tips are: you need to make sure that you and the client are always on the same page about the timeline. The second tip is that you need to make the client feel like a priority by following up and being proactive if they start lacking and not giving you what you need. And the third is to run every meeting, because if there's something awkward, you need to control how that's handled, and you need to make sure that you're the professional and in the driver's seat at all times. If you've noticed, there's a pattern here. You need to be in control of everything. If you haven't read it already, you should go check out Jocko Willink's book called Extreme Ownership, where he talks about how you need to be in control of every part of your business, your life. You need to lead up and down the chain of command. It's a really relevant topic to this, and I think you'll get a lot out of it. It changed the way that I do business for the better. That's all. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I hope to see you guys again soon.